Welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. Brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services, control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. Now, here is Darren and the Music Man. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. Tonight's going to be a fun night.
Hold it.
Wait a second.
The kid is back.
The kid is back.
The kid is back. Yeah, go finish now. Go do it. 7 weeks gone. Go ahead.
I wanted to do a very nice announcement,
So please
and
do.
let everybody know that you were back. But of course, you ruined it.
Of course.
You got to jump in. You got to ruin it on us.
But
Everybody, the Music Man is back. He's been gone for 7 weeks. He with a very nasty illness, but he's doing very, very well now. As you see, welcome back, Norman. We missed you here very much, and I'm so happy that you're back here because now you can take over the show.
Well,
You know?
I appreciate that, but I do have to say that you, Darren, did an outstanding job in my absence. You
Well,
took
thank you.
care of absolutely everything. There was nothing was missing. You covered every base. The people that were here as guests called me, told me that you were better than me. No, I don't believe that. But you know, what are you laughing about? He's laughing over there. Well, I would say something, but he's an attorney.
He's an attorney, right? So tonight,
I won't do that.
So tonight we won't.
won't do that.
You know what? We won't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm so happy you're back. I'm so happy you're sitting
I'm
here
really
with
happy
me.
to be here. It was really, really tough. Just to make it real fast, I almost died, and that's a fact. Something that happened. Now I every ounce of life is totally appreciated, and that's it. So now let's go. Let's start playing the game. Okay, David Korcz, you are here with us.
I am.
And what's this other gentleman's name? Do you know?
Alan Krystal.
Alan
Krystal is
Krystal.
a very, very, very good attorney.
Prestigious.
Prestigious, right?
Prestigious.
It's a big word. I don't know those words, but
I hope that means good.
that means, yeah, I hope that means good, right? So welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for being on tonight, and it's like I said, it's a very special night because we got Norm back. It's been quite lonely on this side of the table.
I don't think you were that lonely, but thank you for saying it anyway.
Well, thank you both for inviting me, and Norm, welcome back. Good seeing you
Thank
again.
you. It's nice to be here.
So, Alan, let's start with you since you're sitting right next to me. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, what your firm does, what your specialties are.
Well, my practice really specializes in business, corporate, employment law. It's solo practice. I've been in business about 6 years. I'm located in Wisconsin on Smithtown Boulevard, and really, what I'm focused on is my function, my mission is really to be like an in-house counsel, whether it's to a small company, whether it's to a medium-sized company, whether it's to an individual, and guide them through their daily legal needs. If they have a problem, hopefully help them through it, and at the same time try to educate them. And the law can be a nasty animal sometimes, something that's ever evolving, something
Right.
that's ever changing. So I try to work with my clients to educate them and help them along and hopefully grow along with their businesses.
It always seems like the law always has these twists and turns, and when you think something is black and white, it's really gray and purple and all different other colors that go along with it.
Ever changing.
Forever changing and things like that. So we have a really hot topic I want to talk to you about tonight, and I mentioned that to you beforehand.
Can I just ask a question before you get into that?
Well, I
'Cause
don't want to get into that topic just yet.
You're going to get into that.
I will get into that, but
Yeah,
you
I
can
know
ask your
that.
question. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there any subject matter that your firm does not handle?
Criminal, matrimonial.
Okay, that's it. So I needed to know. Go for it.
Okay. So you're looking to get a divorce?
And I really don't do
no,
real estate either.
Real estate either?
Right.
Okay. David, welcome.
Tell
for
us a
having
little
me.
bit of you and I have met a couple of times. You know Norm for a long time.
Yep.
Right. You have a very interesting way about how your firm came about, or how you came to be doing this full time. Right. So tell us
Yeah.
about your firm, what you're doing, how you got here.
My firm specializes in taxation for individuals and small businesses. We also offer outsourced CFO services for the small business who can't afford that full-time six-figure CFO on their payroll. My background, I came out of college, worked for 3 different CPA firms in the Albany area for about 8 years, cut my teeth up there, and then looked to get out of public accounting for a little while and get back closer to family, because I'm originally out of Brooklyn, New York. Moved down here to the Islandia area about 23 years ago to take a finance position with a large beverage distributor. Did that for about 5 years, and then I was chief financial officer of a manufacturing company for 7 years, chief financial officer of a tool distributor for 4 years, and then tool distributor of a technology company for about 2-3 years. All the while, I had been building a tax and accounting practice since 1989 when I got my CPA license. And the last place that I worked at, I bought private equity in to help fund the business and take it to the next level. And shortly thereafter, they replaced the entire management team and put their own team in place. So there I was at 47 years old at a crossroads in life. Do I go get another CFO gig, or do I go pursue that dream of being a sole practitioner? And that's the direction I chose to take. I love working with the small business owner, the startup, the entrepreneur, making sure they get things going right from the get-go so that they don't have problems. It's a lot easier to do it right from the start than to clean up the mess after they mess things up.
And we know that. You and I have had those conversations. I do similar work that you do. And yes, it's going in and unwinding everything and trying to fix it and do it the right way is sometimes daunting. Now, Alan, you said your firm, you've been in, had your firm for about 6 years.
About 5-6 years.
5-6 years. Was it a similar situation where you were working in a larger firm and you decided enough was enough and you wanted to go out on your own?
Well, I was doing a number of things. I mean, the one thing that I do is, aside from my practice, is I do a lot of arbitration work, and that's something I continue to do aside from my practice, which I like because it's challenging and it kind of gives me a different perspective that helps me as an attorney. But at the same time, before I made this change, I was also in the corporate world. I was corporate counsel to a large company out in Long Island, and I pretty much had the same story that Dave did. There was a change in management, and slowly they started cleaning house, and there really wasn't a place for me anymore. And I think that experience convinced me that I really didn't want to work for anybody anymore, and I wanted to try doing this.
Okay, so now being entrepreneurs, now going out on your own, this is kind of like, you know, your experiences have always been working with someone, even though you had your practice on the side, it wasn't a full-time gig, you still had, you know, you're working. You know, how scary was it for you guys when you first jumped out into it, Alan?
Very, because, you know the law part of it, but the building a business and being the and building it is another thing. And that's really where getting up and networking and getting out in the community and making yourself known really became a challenge. And the best thing to do is to just dive into it. And I was very fortunate that along the way I met some very good people who were very helpful to me. I got into some very good groups, and slowly but surely met some good people.
You mean networking groups? Is that
Absolutely,
correct?
absolutely, through networking. And through that, I managed to meet people. Dave is one of them, who became very important power partners and very important referral sources. I mean, Dave and I have a number of clients in common. So it allowed me to forge those working relationships.
You know, as a matter of fact, when I asked you if you wanted to be on the show, is it okay if Dave comes on? Is it all right if Dave comes? I said, sure. If Dave wants to be on, of course. And there's your buddy sitting right
Well,
next there.
You know, he's good at what he does, and he's a good guest, and
Well, he is good at what he does. He's my accountant.
and he's a very smart guy, so he makes me look good.
He does handle everything for me. Sometimes I am lazy.
No,
Yes, but sometimes you're lazy.
never.
No, is right. You're a terrific
Listen.
accountant. What you do is sensational, and I highly recommend
I have
you
to stick up for
everyone.
Dave here. It's the client. It's never the accountant, it's the client.
But I will say, before you move on, one thing I want to say about Dave, as I indicated before, I've referred him to a number of my clients, and he's always made me look good. I mean,
All
I
the
think,
time.
because anytime you refer somebody, I mean, that's really, you're putting your reputation on the line. It's an extension of your own credibility.
So, with that said, and that's something that I'm always preaching, right, is, I go to these networking things. I met Norm through networking. I met David through networking. Just meeting these people for the few minutes that we get to meet them, we don't really get to know them. So one of the things that I like to do, and David and I have been having trouble hooking up because we met at a couple of events and we said, hey, we got to sit down and have a cup of coffee.
But we will.
And one-on-one get to know each other so we can be comfortable with each other. Because like you said, when you refer somebody over, and I've done this, and it's burned me where I've had a client who needed something and I just happened to meet somebody at a networking event, and I said, hey, I just met so-and-so, they do this, and they say, well, how do you know them? I said, I just met them, I don't know them, and it went bad, and of course
boy.
it's still your fault because you're the one who made the introduction.
Right, and that's why you really want to have that sit down, that's why you want to have that one-on-one, because really, you meet somebody at a networking event, that's a brief snapshot.
Yep.
You want to do that one-on-one, you want to get, you want to get a sense, A, does that person really have the expertise? Is it somebody who I'd want to hire, either as an accountant or a lawyer or what have you? And is it somebody I would feel comfortable referring to another person?
Right.
And really, it comes down to two things. Is that person good at what they do? And do you like them? Are you comfortable with them?
Right.
Because we all generally, in a perfect world, like to do business with people we like and we're comfortable with.
All the time.
All the
You
time.
really
Exactly.
shouldn't, well, you could, but you really shouldn't be doing business with anybody any other way.
Well, and that's what it comes down to. People buy from people that they like, and that's really what it.
Yeah, it's know, like, and trust.
Exactly, it's know, like, and trust. You hit it right
And,
on the head,
and,
David.
Alan's done phenomenally with the clients that I've referred his way, and
You've done phenomenally with the clients I've referred your way.
And,
So
I've
what's that?
utilized Alan myself. I was looking at a couple of acquisitions over the last few years, and when contracts come across my desk, first person I go to is Alan. to take a look.
He's the guy to go
Yeah,
to.
he's
then.
my go-to
He's the
guy
guy,
for those
Right?
things.
So we definitely got to sit down and talk.
Yeah, and I mean, just one thing about David. I mean, I had a situation where I was representing the client last year, and I was trying to settle a matter for them, and there were some tax consequences. It really involved a significant amount of money, and David gave me a strategy to convince the person I was dealing with that they had to readjust the tax payment. That made me look very good, and
Right.
it allowed me to help somebody, and was incredibly valuable.
Well, it comes down to how, and the value in that isn't the fact, not so much the fact that you did save your client a whole bunch, but now this client's going to do nothing but rave about you, and then when you bring David in, and they're going to rave about David. So that's a great synergy there between the two of you guys.
Absolutely.
When you're
fantastic.
dealing with professionals, people want to know that professionals know what they're talking about. So if another professional tells you to do something that another professional did that recommended to you, that's all she wrote.
Exactly.
That's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Because we've all run into those situations, right? So
It was something you wanted to.
I'm going to ask David first because we're going to spend more time on Alan's topic than David's. David, we got now coming into the fourth quarter, right? As we charge in
Charge into 2018 with the new tax law.
with the new tax law, we're coming into the fourth quarter. What tips and tricks out of the gate? Because we know there are some things they still haven't
Ironed out yet.
ironed out yet with the 2018 tax law. But what tips and tricks would you recommend for people right out of the gate of things they should be looking at this year as compared to last year? Now, being in the New York City metro area,
We've
the
got
new
state
tax
local
laws,
taxes.
they affect us more than
Absolutely.
upstate New York,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had this conversation with a CPA not too long ago where he was like, oh, well, this is really not bothering my clients. I said, well, yeah, your client's property taxes is $2,000 a year. My client's property taxes are
12 and 20.
Yeah,
And,
20, so, but go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no,
Dave.
the new tax law has limited the state and local tax deduction, whereas in years past, as part of your itemized deduction, you could take a look at your W-2 if you're an employee and go, okay, down there is the state income tax withheld, and then go to your year-end mortgage statement from your bank, and there's your year-end property taxes, and you'd add them together, and you could deduct it, whether that number was $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Under the new law, they've capped that at $10,000. Now, for folks here on Long Island, most folks are paying more than $10,000 a year in property and school taxes, so that hits us right in the pocketbook.
Right.
You know, the other places where they've limited anybody who had unreimbursed employee business expenses. They've done away with all of those. So if you're the traveling salesman, the road warrior, and your boss wasn't reimbursing you for the mileage and beating up your car, those write-offs are all gone. In the past couple of years, New York State's been cracking down on that stuff, but now it's no longer going to be a write-off at all.
Right.
You know, they're severely limiting those. They're also cutting down on the deductible mortgage interest. Used to be you could write off interest on a mortgage up to $1 million. Now it's cut off at $750,000. They were trying to get $500,000 in there, but that was never going to fly. But, you know, here on the island, you can run into $750,000 and $1 million homes where you're going to have to sit down and analyze how much of that mortgage interest is really deductible. And they've done some things around home equity loan interest, which are hurting the folks that were using those to consolidate credit and things of that nature, where they could write those things off in the past. They're not going to be able to in the future.
So, you know, the perception is the new tax law is going to help everybody out because we're getting lower tax rates. What is your opinion?
We're getting a 2 to 3% tax break across the board. They've eliminated the personal exemptions. So it used to be, you know, if you had a family of 5 and you weren't making serious money, you'd have a $20,000 write-off, you know, $4,000 approximately for every household member. They did away with all the personal exemptions too. Now they've tried to give some of that back with child care credits or child credits based on the ages of your kids. So you really need to sit down with your tax professional and look at your situation. One thing that they did was they changed the withholding tables February or March of this year. So you might have seen a little bit more money in your paycheck. But what's that going to mean when it comes down to when you sit with your accountant next March or April? How's that going to look? So one piece of advice I'd give people out there now is go sit with your accountant fourth quarter. Make sure you're going to have enough taxes withheld. If not, you might be able to adjust retirement plan contributions or plan for what that tax liability is going to look like. You're better to find out in September or October than next March or April that you had planning opportunities that you missed.
Great advice. Great advice. You know, I see on TV all the time about you. If you owe the IRS over $10,000, we can help you.
Yeah.
Right. And
they can in certain circumstances. You'll hear about the Fresh Start Initiative or the Offering Compromise
But you can
program.
do the same thing.
I certainly can.
Right.
But it's on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
To get that Offering Compromise program, you really have to be in dire straits and be able to prove that and be willing to drop your financial clothes and expose your entire financial situation to an impartial person sitting there at the IRS saying, does this person qualify for this or not? Now, I've gotten folks settled for under 10 cents on the dollar, but what they don't tell you on all those ads is that those offers come with strings attached.
Can I have you tell the world a story?
Sure.
Okay, the most recent one. You haven't heard this story. You're going to appreciate this. Everyone's going to appreciate this. Talk about your client.
We had one gentleman where I settled a case for him approximately 7 years ago. Saved the gentleman about $200,000. He came to me owing the IRS $223,800. We settled for $20,000. Now the guy's business had been
Can you imagine?
Slammed by Hurricane Sandy, so we had a sad tale to tell. He was underinsured, and the IRS had a lien on his house when he came to me. It took about a year and a half to process to get the settlement for this gentleman because he had a business that he owned also. So he had to expose all of his personal financials and all of his business financials and show that he couldn't afford to make any kind of significant payments against his $223,000. And that there was a family member that was willing to spot him the money to get this thing done once and for all. Took about 18 months with the IRS back and forth. Finally, we got it done. And, you know, when you sign off on that offer, you sign off that I'm going to be a good citizen for the next 5 years. I'm going to file and pay all my taxes on time for the next 5 years. And you have to live by that. What happened was, in this gentleman's case, he was good for the first 4 years. Did everything by the book. Year 5, he owed about $18,000 with his tax return. Only sent in the IRS a check for $6,000. Thankfully, they still had me down as representing him as his power of attorney because they called me up and The basic question was, has your client gone off their antipsychotics? You know, they owed $18,000, they sent in $6,000, what's going on here? We had an agreement that you guys were going to pay everything for 5 years and be good citizens. And I said, so thank you so much for calling me, and if my client doesn't come up with this, you're going to put the $200,000 that we saved him back on his house, and plus interest and penalties, and land on him with both feet. How long does my client have? Well, your client has 45 days to get this rectified. I said, I'm going to call you in 30, and it'll be rectified before then. Called my client up and said, have you lost your mind? And basically told the client, get the money from wherever you have to go to get it. Whatever you have to do, go get the money and get it in, and you have 10 days. Client found the money, got it done, called the IRS in 30 days, and everything was back on point. Thank goodness they still had me down as the power of attorney, because if they hadn't been able to reach him, if they had called in and tried to get a hold of him, or he had gotten a piece of mail that he had ignored, they would have had a lien back in his house.
Which, as we know, our clients tend to ignore anything that says Internal Revenue Service on it. They just throw it in a pile and then they'll give it to us when they see us, right? Months later,
I
you get a
open
stack
it
of
and then
stuff.
put it in a pile. Sometimes I then call you, and otherwise I
Do you
will.
read it after you open it, though? So I get a
No,
lot of clients
actually-
who just go, I got a letter from the IRS, and they send it to
I
me. and
really
it
do
says
read
nothing.
it because I know that it's important.
You know?
You have to read those letters. You have to open those envelopes.
Right. And
I
you got to
want-
respond to them when you're supposed to respond to them.
Correct.
So, you know, with the tell of your tale is real simple. Don't believe everything that you hear. There's
No,
a
you
lot
can't.
more to it. Don't just jump in and pay these people the few $1,000s that they ask for up front.
And usually it's from 3 to 5 is what I've been
Yeah.
hearing from folks.
So, you know, if you don't have an accountant, contact someone like David, you know, and
Phone
have
numbers. We
have a
forgot phone
conversation.
numbers.
And I was just getting to that.
Go for it, man.
So, David, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how could they do that?
They could reach me at 631-582-1416. Once again, that's 631-582-1416. Or they can email me at DNAKOR, as in cat, Z as in zebra, at optonline.net.
And Alan, how do they reach you?
krystal.pmi@gmail.com.
Krystal, right?
KRYSTA.
Gotcha.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. All right.
Is there anything else that you would like to put out there on a table, things that are coming up or things that the IRS are going to present?
You know, David, you say you do CFO services also.
Sure.
Right? So give me an example of a type of a company. And really, what because I get this all the time because I provide those type of services too. Well, what does that mean? You know, CFO services for
Sure.
a small company that can't afford a full-time CFO.
You know, a lot of them know how to put the basic information into QuickBooks, but they don't know what kind of financial statements a bank is looking for. Let's say they need to go to their bank for a line of credit, and the bank is looking for a little bit more than a tax return. We can lay those projections and forecasts out there. You know, talk to business about making realistic projections. Love to sit with owners and poke holes in them, because I've sat in enough bank meetings over the years to know what's going to fly with a bank, what's not going to fly with a bank.
You just
And,
did it for me.
You know,
You just did it for me on a loan.
and did we get the loan?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's one service we provide. You know, we assist our clients in finding appropriate sources of financing. You know, I'm seeing too many people going with these credit card advance financings at these ridiculous rates versus checking with their accountant first and going, do you know a place for me to get money? I've had a few of those where, you know, some of these credit card advances are north of 25%, the interest rate that people are getting charged.
If somebody is just, they don't know what to do or whatever, and they call you up, but do you charge them for the initial phone call and just to have a conversation and just see what the
An
situation?
initial conversation costs nothing. What I tell a lot of folks is, as long as it's not during my prime busy season, I'll take a look at the last 3 years for free if it's done by somebody else.
It's me.
Yeah, and that's and that's an important point. Is that, you know, calling up these places that are advertising we're going to help you. Typically, they want the money up front before they tell you anything. Call David, you know, call somebody like David, you know, and get that free advice to kind of give you a path as to which direction you're going to go and what it's going to take to get it done. Because sometimes it can be done cheaper, or sometimes it's going to cost a lot more to get the things done that you
let
got
the
to get
client
done.
know. You got to be transparent.
You got to be transparent with it and stuff like that. So, you know, That's all great stuff. Now, David, is there any like charities or anything like that you're involved in?
I do
that
a
you
lot of
wanna
work
talk about?
with SASE, which is Specialized Autism Support and Information.
Okay.
They're a 501c3 that I helped get their not-for-profit certification a couple of years ago. I'm on the board. They do monthly birthday parties for children on the autism spectrum. They've also
Fantastic.
got a monthly support group for the parents of the kids on the spectrum. They do a huge gala every June where they'll get
So,
300-400 people out.
How do we get in touch with them?
SASINY.org. SASI.
SASI.
NY.org.
ny.org. Okay, so
.org.
for those of us that support autism, and if you want to make a donation or you just want to reach out and see how you can help them, sassy.ny.org.
Yeah,
Right?
they're phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Alan, I'm going to turn my attention to you now.
Okay.
It's a hot topic. Things that in the news all over the place today, yesterday, weeks now, things like that. Sexual harassment, right, in the workplace, or not in the workplace, or wherever it may be, but sexual harassment tends to be a big topic now. You and I had a conversation. New York State actually is implementing a new sexual harassment law for employers starting October 17th, right? And, if you could, explain a little bit about the law and really what's going on with that.
Okay, actually, the date, I believe, is the 9th.
Oh,
Okay.
October 9th, yeah, I'm sorry.
And that really requires employers
Mhm.
of any size to have sexual harassment
Now,
policies.
it used to be the sexual harassment policy in training and stuff had to be for employers with 4 or more employees, right?
No, this is for everyone.
Now it starts with
Right.
1, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a sole proprietor, you got to
Mhm.
do this.
Well, you
For
have
the
to have
most
one
part.
employee. But
Yeah.
my point is that it's, number one, you have to have the policy. So
Mhm.
if you don't have a handbook or you don't have a written policy, you need to have a written policy. But more importantly, and more to your point, you do have to do formalized training because you have to explain, Really?
Points for what?
I'm sorry?
Points for what? I don't understand where the points go. If you wanted to get points, you mentioned.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Wait, he said to my point.
To your point.
Oh,
To my
Sorry.
sorry.
Okay, so to the point you made, Darren, the first thing you really need to do is define what sexual harassment is, because I think everybody knows, the most obvious and glaring instances, but not all instances. And as I explained, and I think it can be generational sometimes, things that you might think are relatively innocent and benign might make someone feel very uncomfortable.
Right.
Especially when you're talking about jokes,
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about things that you might intend as compliments about somebody's appearance or how somebody looks in an article of clothing.
Right, yeah, but in the pre-show interview, like Norman brought up the fact that, well, what if I go to somebody and say, wow, you have a very nice dress on, it makes you look really good. That could be misconstrued as sexual
It's all a
harassment,
matter of
right?
perception, because the idea is anything that makes a person feel uncomfortable,
Mhm.
or in the case of a woman, feel like they're being an object and cause a sense of discomfort, could give rise to a potential problem.
Right.
So it's really about defining and having everybody understand what it is. And also understanding what the company's policy is, how the company is going to investigate a complaint, what type of action is going to be taken, what the interview process is, who is going to be involved in it.
So all of this information really should be in the handbook.
It should be in the
Right.
handbook, but it's not enough to do it in the handbook. You have to do a training.
Right.
And the training involves a presentation. And again, a handbook is a passive experience. Training is an interactive experience. So there can be a give and take.
So this is mandated now that every
Right.
company has
And
to
I've
do
done it,
this?
and I've worked on this in the past in the corporate world. If it's done well, it's a very instructive give and take, where people ask questions, people gain an understanding, and not only do they understand what they can and can't do, but for a company, for an employer, it also conveys a sense that there is a corporate commitment, and this is something that's not going to be tolerated.
Right, and from what I understand also is that the law says that everybody within the company has to take it, from the owner all the way down.
All the way
to
down the line.
All the way down the line to interns.
Anybody,
If you have
if you're working there,
You get a paycheck, you take it.
Right, well, it's not even a paycheck. If you're an intern, you're not making any money, then yeah, absolutely, you gotta do that. So let me ask you this question, right? Your experience with employment law and corporate law and things like that, if we had a question or if I had clients that have questions in putting an employee manual together with the right stuff in it, could they come to you for that?
Absolutely.
All right, so that's something that you will do.
Absolutely.
All
I mean, there are a number of sources. I mean, if, obviously payroll companies do it, that's very often a service that's provided, but, if you're a smaller company, you don't work with a payroll company, that's something that I can do and I have done for a number of
All right.
companies.
All right, and how would they get a hold of you if somebody wanted to talk to you about doing that type of training?
Well, they can email me or they can call me, 631-780-6555.
Slow down, 631.
631-780-6555.
Okay, and your email address again?
Is, two, Alan Krystal, AlanKrystal, LAW, @gmail.com,
Right.
or crystal.pmi@gmail.com.
Okay, all right. So we will put them up on our chat screens too. So
Right,
they'll
and
be
I
there.
do have a website, alankrystal.com, alankrystal.law.com, which discusses my practice and, provides some points about various aspects of my practice.
Okay, so a lot of things that are being said now in the news and everything that's going on, and Washington is just insane with all of this stuff right now, right? So how often, and I don't know how much of your practice that you really deal with this sexual harassment stuff or not, but how often do you see somebody making a false accusation just because they're mad at somebody? Like a jilted lover type of thing and things like that. How often does that happen?
I haven't really seen, to be candid with you, I haven't seen it happen all that clear. And I'm glad you mentioned that question, because I do think that part of the training has to deal with that. That just as a candid and truthful allegation of harassment has to be dealt with seriously, so is an allegation that's false. Of course, as we know from the news and we know from reality, sometimes it's hard to establish the veracity or the falsity of a particular allegation. I mean, that's what we're going through
Now.
in Washington.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and with that, and it's very important to know that, it's a two-sided sword here.
Right.
Where, somebody not realizing, just because they're mad at somebody, they make a statement. And it could be that somebody made a statement to somebody else in confidence, but somebody else overheard it, and then it runs up the chain, right?
And unfortunately, it puts the person who's the accused in a precarious situation. I mean, we've talked, and now that it's been prominent in the news in view of the whole Kavanaugh situation, feeling as well, why is the person who's being accused not getting the benefit of the doubt? Why is there a presumption of guilt? But unfortunately, in a lot of these he said, she said situations, or he said, whatever the case, that happens because, those allegations are serious. Companies are concerned about it. And, it does unfortunately put a person who's accused in a very
And it could be real.
situation. Absolutely.
very well be real.
Absolutely.
It could absolutely be real, and I think one of the things that, which is unfortunate for us, is that 30 years ago, when this stuff happened, we kind of just laughed at it and didn't take it seriously and just moved right through it. It wasn't until really Clarence Thomas that this became a big issue, with that. And he got through it. And from what I understand, those allegations of...
But I think what's really propelled it in the last couple of years, and it positively, is the Me Too movement.
Right.
I mean, because you've had... you mentioned, we've talked about Kavanaugh, but I mean, you've had situations, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes at Fox. I mean, the whole thing that happened, the host of the Today Show. I mean, all of these
Letterman, right?
David Letterman. So, I mean, you've had some high-profile people who've been caught up in these types of situations. Now, the good thing about the training and the change in the law is it does raise employee and employer consciousness.
Right.
It does hopefully deter these situations from arising. But it's also going to, of course, result in a spike of claims, because now that people know of it, they're going to be more likely to report these things. Now, it's good in the sense that they come to light. It's problematic for an employer because it exposes that employer's potential liability.
Right, because the employer is always liable no matter what, right? So if it happened during his work time and things like that, and this is my understanding of the law. If a supervisor was aware of it, not the owner, but somebody within management or a supervisory type of position.
Tag, you're right.
That's it.
Tag, you're right. I
The
mean, I think
company
we were
is
ta-
responsible.
I mean, we
by
were
law.
talking about, I think we were talking in the pre-interview about, I was giving you a story about a case that I had handled.
Mhm.
And there was a protocol that was in place. But the problem was that after the employee reported it to her immediate supervisor, that supervisor, for whatever reason, didn't take it up the ladder. And unfortunately, the owner of the business didn't know what happened until a lawyer got involved. And of course, there was a claim which unfortunately they had to settle, but fortunately, because we identified that problem early on in the game, it minimized the expense and it minimized the
The
cost of the
damage,
sale.
right.
Exactly.
Question. I'm going to ask both of you
Okay.
regarding tomorrow's hearing and Friday's decision on what you think the answer may be. You don't have to answer it. You can answer it. The fact that there's a woman that's going to be trying the case, the ridiculousness that is going on in the questioning and answering that's going to be happening. Where do the two of you sit with this? You're two professional people. Where do you sit?
Well, I'm going to punt it over to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Korcz.
Who's going to say that he hasn't been following it all that closely because he's been dealing with deadlines?
Good.
That's it.
No, good answer.
That is a good answer.
Yeah.
You don't even have to really get into it too much. It's tragic what's going on.
Well,
down there
again,
right
if
now.
I can address it briefly, and again, I have to, I don't want to alienate half the my potential client base with the answer I give, but let me try to. Unfortunately, I think the big problem is that the entire factual issue has been immersed in political theater.
Right.
Because I mean, the truth of the matter is, the majority of the actors who are going to decide what happens to this judge have pretty much decided what they're going to do.
Of course.
So it's really the matter of a few people on the fence who are facing reelection who've got to pretty much, decide who they feel is more credible here, and then assess, well, if I vote one way, I got to worry on one hand the people back home when I'm running for reelection.
But that's been the case
and,
all along.
But my point is,
All these
Norman,
things.
it's political theater. Now,
Absolutely.
again, I mean, what happened today I thought was very interesting because it was set forth in an affidavit. And again, I mean,
With Flake?
I'm sorry?
With Flake?
No, I'm talking about the Michael Avenatti's client.
Oh, him. Okay,
And
got
that's
it.
pretty interesting because, again, without passing judgment on whether or not that happened, I mean, to me, it's extraordinary that this woman put something in the form of an affidavit that she swore under the penalty of perjury. And also extraordinary that obviously Avenatti drafted this affidavit. They're putting themselves on the line here. So, I mean, the fact that this was done, I'm not saying is dispositive of the issue, but it's pretty powerful. With regard to what's going to be happening tomorrow with Professor Ford, it's going to be a tough day for her because the Republican senators on the committee are bringing in a hired gun, an experienced prosecutor from, I believe, from Arizona, who's handled sex crimes. So
That's what her job is.
and it's she's going to be under some very intense scrutiny, and it's going to how she handles that is really going to affect how her claim goes across. Judge Kavanaugh is going to hear scrutiny as well, but I mean he's more experienced in that forum. Just as an aside, I think he probably put himself on the line doing that interview with Fox because I think
They said he killed himself with
no,
that.
I think he projected himself in a way where if any part of the story deviates that, regardless of whether or not he did the acts alleged, the fact that he's not the choir boy he advertised himself, I think he projected could hurt his credibility. But again, it's a sad situation, and hopefully, without getting political, we can all go on, and we can come away enlightened and come away educated.
Well, I
from
think
this.
what you two did is enlighten to the world whom and what you are and what you do for a living and how you can help people.
May I mention one thing? And I don't
Please.
mean to, and I apologize for interrupting. One thing that I will counsel every business: everybody, in terms of insurance, employers' liability insurance, because this topic is so prevalent, because there is a possibility of harassment claims, you want to make sure you're insured for it, because in the event that it happens, at least having that insurance is going to minimize your liability. The insurance company can deal with the defense of the claim, they can deal with the investigatory
Absolutely.
process, and in the event that it does result in an action you have to defend and ultimately settle, it is going to, I mean, obviously it's subject to a deductible. It is going to be something that's going to limit your liability. So if there's any one takeaway that any business owner has from what I've been discussing tonight, you really should be on the phone with your broker and discussing that insurance coverage. Not cheap, but it's
something you have to have.
EPLI
Absolutely.
coverage.
Unfortunately, in this day and age, you pretty much got to have insurance for everything.
Well, I want to
Yes.
thank
And
you both
everything
for
that you can
coming.
have. Well,
Thank
we
you
still got-
very
we
much
still
to
got a
be
few
here.
minutes. We still got a few minutes.
We do? Because
Yes,
I
we do.
thought that we didn't.
No, we do. We got time.
Okay.
We got time.
I am
Let's do
really
it.
behind it tonight.
Yeah, you are. You're okay though.
All
Look,
right, okay.
let's do a shout out. We got a whole bunch
We
of
got
people
plenty
on
of people there. Go ahead.
on Facebook,
Yeah.
right? That are all they want to do is just welcome you back.
Okay, go
There's
right
no
ahead.
hi, Darren. There's no, although we did get to tell Alan, Dave that I said hi from Paul Eterno. All
Okay,
right.
great.
Paul's a
Hey,
great
Paul,
guy.
He's a
how you
good guy.
doing, Paul? I
Hey,
don't know
Paul.
Paul, so that's
Hey,
why he
Paul.
didn't say hi to me. Brian's watching. The missus is watching.
Hi, Mrs.
Okay, your missus. Marilyn, thank you for tuning in.
Marilyn, I need to talk to you. Call me.
Okay, so now, okay, so let's get off the sexual harassment topic a little bit. Let's talk about the other areas. And you do general business.
what I pretty much do. I mean, Dave talked about providing general CFO services. Well,
Right.
some of what I do is involve general counsel services.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a business that may not need a person there every day,
Right.
but for several businesses, I'm there on an on-call basis. If a problem arises, if a question arises, if a claim arises, if anything of them arises, I'm there to answer the question.
Right.
I'm there to deal with the problem. I'm there to give advice.
So really, what you guys provide for these small and medium-sized businesses and these growing businesses that really can't afford to have these full-time people on, is that comfort that I have somebody I can pick up the
Right.
phone and call.
And I'm not, just so you know, I mean, just to be clear, I mean, I'm not limited to small businesses. I mean, I do represent companies that have over 100 employees.
Right.
But again, I'll work with, I'll work with any business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's what I wasn't implying that, but because the way I work and the way that Dave works with a lot of smaller business, medium-sized businesses, because we have some decent-sized companies too that we work with.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the majority of our business, and I don't know if it's the same case with you, the majority of our business are these small and medium-sized businesses where the guy's sitting there and he doesn't know what to do. And one of the things that, when I do executive coaching and business coaching, and one of the things I've always coached and tell them is that find experts like you guys that you can work with. You don't have to give them a $5,000 a month retainer. You don't have to, it's those people that when you have that quick question, you can pick up the phone. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You can get the answers that you need, and you can make the right decision.
Right, and the way I do it, I mean, is I will just do it on an hourly basis. So I'm not, you don't have to pay me a set retainer. I will do it on an hourly basis, and you'll pay me for the work I do.
Right.
And
And that's important, right? So know this, that there are guys like Alan and David out there, okay, that will help you get through those tough times and in that transition. I got clients that are transitioning from that 1 to 2 man type show, and now all of a sudden they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. And it's like, well, how do I get there? I got to make sure my structure's right. I got to make sure I have all the employee manuals the right way. Insurances, all of these things. So we always have a network of people that we're trying to pull in to help them. Because if they're from an accounting point of view, right, they go to us and they go, who do you recommend? And we bring you in, Alan, and then we bring the insurance guy in, and
Absolutely.
and I got one client that does nothing without checking with me first.
I love those kind of people.
You love it. Well, you do and you don't, you know. I love them to death. Don't get me wrong. Darren, if
great.
you're watching tonight, I love you. But his name just happens to be Darren, too.
They're great. They save themselves heartache.
Well, they save themselves a ton of heartache, you know, and he saves us a ton of heartache, as you know, because
Absolutely.
come time to do his taxes and things like that, they didn't do any missteps, you know, and we were on top of it. It goes to doing it right from the beginning so you don't have to unwind it. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there will go and hire an attorney or hire an accountant that doesn't give them the right advice out of the gate, and
Right.
they get all twisted up.
And, you know, the other thing is a lot of businesses, because they are small and because they're so focused on doing their business, that they may not be able to be abreast of the latest tax regulations, of the latest change. For example, with regard to sexual harassment law, I mean, I called several clients to let them know about it, and they had no idea about it.
Well, and I only found out about it because I attended a seminar last Friday.
Right.
And it was in the seminar, and he mentioned it, and I was like, whoa.
It hasn't been super well publicized.
Not
and
well
you
publicized at all.
You'd think something as broad and sweeping as this would be out there.
Yeah, you know, because this is a major impact, because it has to be done by January 1st, right? the
Right,
training?
absolutely.
You know, so, you know, and that was the thing, I was like, oh my God, you know, and it was there's a lot of training companies out there.
Right.
that are-
Well, I
that are
will say,
offering-
if I may, very quickly, I mean, you know, if a company needs it, I mean, obviously, if they have an HR person, the HR person should be doing it.
Right.
If they have EPLI policy, they could talk to their carrier to see if somebody can do the training. If they have a payroll company, sometimes they will be a HR component.
Right.
Somebody can do the training. But I also do the training as well. I'm doing it for several of my clients. I'm not an HR professional, but I am an attorney. I've dealt with these claims. I've helped HR people in terms of developing and carrying out training. So it is a service that I would be happy to provide for anyone.
And like I
who's
said, you
interested.
and I got to talk after this.
Okay.
You know, definitely about that. So we may have some opportunities
Great.
together to do this. So.
Same here.
You know, I want to thank both you guys for being on the show tonight. You know, it was really good and very educational. You know, I love learning about everything, right? How are you feeling? Good?
I'm feeling great.
Okay. Thanks for being on, guys.
Thanks for having
We really
us.
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it. All right, we're looking forward to seeing you guys soon. All right, everybody. So,
Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for welcoming me back. I have to move myself over here because
come here.
there we go. There we
You
go.
got to be right next to me.
There we go. I got to
You gotta be
move
right
this,
next
get my pain out
All
of
right.
the way. Thank you again for tuning in and watching us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Do we have any special next week?
Nothing special. Well, our guests are always special.
Well, I think we have something. We're not going to tell anybody.
No, we're going to keep
We're
it
gonna
quiet
let
right
you-
now.
we're
All
gonna
right.
Keep it quiet.
So,
Keep it
guys,
quiet.
next Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, right here on Twitch TV and Facebook Live. Tune in the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. All right. Thanks for tuning in.
Pleasure. Good night,
everybody. Have a
everybody.
great week. Good night,
Thanks so
everybody.
much.
Today's show is brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services. Control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. If you're interested in being a guest on our show, visit our website at www.bphdmm.com for more information.